Hello everyone, Noel here, and today I'm going to give you a first impression review of the Arteza Real Brush Pens. I bought the set of 96 from Amazon, but you can also purchase them from the Arteza website. The prices seem to fluctuate pretty frequently, so make sure that you're checking those, and also use coupon codes because, everyone loves saving money, right? Now, obviously, I don't have the original packaging, but I do have footage of what the original packaging looked like, so let's go ahead and dive into that. The set comes encased in plastic, and the brushes themselves are sorted in these plastic trays. While that was fine for short-term storage, I myself like something a little bit more durable, hence why I bought this from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. It was a little pricey from what I remember, but for a case that holds all 96 of my brush pens, I thought it was a pretty good investment. It's also kind of nice because look, it's got a little pocket here, and I think it has one in the back. Yeah, it's pretty great. Let me just set that back up now. Now, if you don't want to get something like this, the Arteza website does sell the brush pens in a travel set. So it actually comes with a case on its own, kind of similar to the way that they package their Everblend markers. So it does come in a case like this if you were to purchase the travel set. Now, the brushes themselves are encased in a sleek plastic tube with a clear plastic cap on one end, as well as a colored cap on the other end that we'll come back to in a moment. The cap comes off smoothly and fits well on the opposite end, which I always appreciate. And the barrel, of course, has all the typical things you expect, like the company name, the name of the color, etc. The brush tips are made of nylon, and from the small amount of use I've actually given them, they seem to stay together pretty well, creating varying degrees of line thickness depending on how light or heavy-handed you are. And it's not a solid brush tip like you would find on a brush tip marker. Right here I have a Blick Studio marker. Like its name states, it is a real brush, so it does actually have some fibers here. See? Whee. Oh, painted my nail. The first thing I did when I took the brush pens out of the packaging was create swatch pages, which I do for all my art supplies. Look at them, love them. I like to make swatch pages for all of my art supplies because it just makes finding colors that much easier for any piece that I'm working on. And last year I made a video about doing just that, so you can follow the link. I always forget which side of the screen it's going to be, so take your pick. I'll also have a link for that video in the description box as well. While swatching, I noticed some colors had an easier time scrubbing than others, but while the pigment sat on the water-soaked paper, I noticed that the pigment did end up spreading a lot easier. Lighter colors seem to be harder than darker colors. They seem to give a lot easier to water than the lighter ones, so something to keep in mind. The second thing I noticed was the length of some of the bristles on different brush pens. There doesn't really seem to be any sort of consistency. While I don't think this affects its use, it's something that I saw and wanted to bring up because I thought it was interesting. Continuing on, I also noticed what I can only describe as manufacturing errors. In one case, one brush pen actually had a stray bristle sticking out, which I just very gently pulled out. But in the case of this violet color, a bristle was actually lodged in the ferrule cap. And while I don't think it actually affects the use of this brush, it's just, a little cosmetic issue, it was just something I wanted to bring up. One of the reasons why I like buying larger sets over smaller sets is the vastness of the color choices you end up getting, or the lack thereof. In this case, there are barely any yellows or neutral colors, but there are more reds, pinks, purples, blues, and greens than you can shake a stick at. And getting into the matter of color in general, I found the packaging to almost always be true to the actual color of the product, that being the end cap here that I mentioned earlier is almost always consistent with the actual color being laid down. And actually, let's talk about those colors for a moment. I have to say, I absolutely love the names that Arteza gave some of these colors. Like, come on, Bubble Bath Pink. That's actually pretty fun. However, the numbering system is a little vague. I'm sure the numbering system isn't actually for consumers, but I always find it fun to line them up the way that they're supposed to be. Arteza numbers their real brush pens with the letter A, followed by a 3-digit number. So here is A101 through A110 lined up in order. The rainbow according to Arteza, everyone. Since this is a first impressions video, I'm not going to get into the topic of how well the brushes hold up over time, or if the ink is light fast, or how to work with them, or any technicalities like that, since that would require I use them frequently over a period of time. However, I have used these in 2 pieces from my 100 OC series, and well, OC being original characters, and you can actually see how they worked in those videos, so I will put those links wherever those pop up. I never know if it's this side or this side. I really should check, but I'll also put that in the description as well. What I will tell you though is that the Arteza Real Brush Pens are a water-based ink, so you can use them on their own and blend them with one another, which I have done. It's actually really fun. But you can also use the included water brush or your own brushes to create watercolor effects, which I ended up doing for both of the pictures that I mentioned beforehand. In the first picture, I tried the pens for the most part on completely dry paper and added water with a brush to blend. But for the second one, I did a combination of the brush pens and also watercolor pencils, which are my babies. And then I went back and forth between the two and also applying them, you know, wet and dry, just to, you know, see what I could do with them. I found that when the brushes were applied to wet paper, the pigment from the tip of the brush here quickly dissipated. It just completely ran out of the brush. And the only way that I could, well, since I'm impatient, the only way I could get the pigment back into the brush so I could continue using it was if I shook it pretty vigorously. The color does run back into the brush on its own over time, but like I said, I'm very impatient. Well, that about wraps it up for this first impressions video. Color me impressed. Cheesy jokes here on this channel. Also, I don't think I mentioned this, but this video is not sponsored. I bought these with my own money because I just love collecting art supplies. But thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, go ahead and click that thumbs up below. And if you want to see more art-related content, I would totally appreciate if you would subscribe. And remember to draw what you love and love what you draw. Now, the first thing I did when I took the, wow. Yep. Just helping the illusion. I never know what I'm doing. Now, while swatching, I did notice that some of the colors had an easier time scrubbing than others. However, the longer the pigment sat within, okay, I gotta read this. I have my script over here, so it's like, why I'm over here? Let's do that all again. Does anybody even use that term anymore? Shake a stick at? It's kind of a fun term. In general, I found the packaging to be almost always true to... Arteza numbers their real brush pens with the letter A followed by a 3-digit number. However, I have used these babies frequently, and frequent is a word. Yeah, it's a great word. Well, that about wraps it up for my first impressions video. I'm actually pretty impressed. Impressed. See what I did there? I really like these. I love using them for really quick pieces. I love using them. Yeah, I do. I really love working with these. They are so great for just really quick, whatever those things are that I make on paper. Art, I believe it is called. Oh my gosh, how does my outro work again?